All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Rich Mind Podcast. And today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the UPW event Greg attended with Tony Robbins. It's been, by the time this episode launches, it's probably be almost a month, maybe a little bit longer since the event actually happened. But the content that he learned, the things that he learned, it's ever changing, it's ever evolving. It's fantastic stuff. And so I wanted to dive a little deeper towards the end of the last conversation, the last episode we had. Greg brought up the question, or Tony had the question, is why do we do what we do? We started to go down that path. And I told Greg, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I could tell that was going to be a long part of the conversation. It's not that I didn't think that it would be a good conversation at that moment. I just definitely thought that it could probably be its own episode in and of itself. And so that's why we're back here today. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper into the UPW program. I want to go into the conversation as far as why do we do what we do? Just that question alone is intriguing to me, and hopefully it will be to you as well. So as always, Greg, man, I appreciate you coming back on. This will be a lot of fun. Why do we do what we do? Let's pick up from there. Any thoughts?
Yeah, let's jump right into it. So yeah, this was a great day at the UPW event. This was one of the two that I really took, kind of hit home for me and really made me think. I knew about these things, but when he kind of outlines them and goes into them in detail, it was just a great reminder and really, made me introspectively look at all these. There's six of them. Four are primal needs, and then the other two are spiritual, which we'll get into. But yeah, it's a really good conversation and exercise. And I know our listeners are really going to enjoy this one.
So is that, once again, it's like taking these ideas, these concepts, applying them into your own life. It's like internalizing them, thinking through them deeper than even just the surface level, trying to think through, because each one might not pertain to where you are, where I am. But at the same time, if one of these ideas or concepts resonates and it helps you kind of break through, maybe you're stuck in a certain situation and you're just looking for that one piece of the puzzle that's going to break through or help you break through. Yeah, that's where these kinds of things are super exciting, because you just never know where it's going to take you. I just always remember back to when I was first diving into the personal development things myself, and just basic things. I mean, they're basic to me today, but in the moment, they were so profound. They were so big. They needed them so much in the moment to be able to take my life from where it was to where obviously I'm trying to become every day in my life. So yeah, super excited to dive in. So yeah, you mentioned 4 primal and 2 spiritual. Yeah, I'm curious about that. Tell me more.
Yeah. So the first primal need is certainty. And I'll just kind of dive into that one. Then we can go on to number 2, 3, and 4. So certainty, and I'll kind of read a little bit from the manual here, but basically says everybody wants stability around their basic necessities, food, shelter, natural resources, materials, that kind of thing. I think that one is pretty standard and, kind of a basic one that most people understand. Food, water, shelter, connection with others. That might be a little bit into another one, but yeah, the basic needs or basic things that we need to, basically survive and exist.
So yeah, so with certainty comes along with, like you said, the basic things that we need just for survival. That's kind of what I'm hearing you say. Is that
Mm-hmm.
basically what he was meaning by that, you think?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that one's not too like, I don't want to say profound, but it's, very, yeah, foundational, I guess is a good word.
Fantastic. You said there was 2 or 3 more? 3 more?
Yep. So the second one is uncertainty/variety. And Tony says that people have a need to change their state, to exercise their body and their emotions. So that can be from a couple of different things: change of scenery, physical activity, working out, going for a walk, changing your mood, that kind of thing, entertainment, food, probably, a good one in there because people enjoy food and it's also nourishment for the body. And yes, so just having that uncertainty and variety, there is something to be said about routines, which we talk about a lot on this podcast, but also, breaking your routine a little bit or mixing it up, adding something else to the routine, taking something away. And that's where, the variety piece comes in and kind of keeps life interesting if you have a little bit more variety day to day.
Do you do that for yourself? Meaning, do you try to add variety on purpose to your life? I'm just curious because I do that sometimes, but a lot of times I'm still just in that rut of habits, doing the same thing over and over. Yeah. Do you do anything like that for yourself? Try to get yourself, just maybe even a little bit outside your comfort zone?
Yeah, I definitely do. I know with morning routines and even night routines, I try to, if I find something that is working, I stick to it. But like you said, if you want to, kind of mix it up a little bit and then just see how it affects your routine, if it makes it better, keep it in there. If it kind of disrupts it, then maybe pull it back. So yeah, I think it just kind of depends on what it is, where it's fitting in. But I think, kind of tinkering with routines, because routines after a while, they can get very dull and boring, and doing the same exact thing over and over at the same exact time of day. For some people, it might be great. Others, like, yourself and myself, might need a little bit more variety and just kind of, that wild card in there sometimes.
It's almost like you push yourself once again outside your comfort zone of just what's normal. I
Hmm.
remember it's probably been close to 10 years ago now, maybe 8, something like that. But it's been a little while ago. I was playing basketball and I actually fell and I fractured my elbow, my right elbow, because I just fell backwards. It was just a weird position. But with that came that I couldn't use my right arm. I couldn't use my right arm to work. I couldn't use my right arm to feed myself. I
Mm.
couldn't, you know what I mean? So I'm right-handed, obviously, and I couldn't use it for basic things, which forced me then to feed myself left-handed, which brush my teeth left-handed, which I know that might sound simple and but at the same time, these are the thoughts that are going through my mind as you're describing that. If that situation forced me to push myself outside my normal comfort zone of using my right hand all the time. And maybe that's some of the things that we can suggest for folks to try. If you go a certain way to a certain destination every day, try a different way. Turn left instead of right.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Even going for my walks, I just have a simple neighborhood, right? Simple, normal rectangle style neighborhood, but I try to change it up. I'll go left sometimes, or I'll go right sometimes, or I'll skip this street and I'll try this street, or you know what I mean, just different things to try to see things differently. It's always amazing that I'll pick something up or I'll see something that I never really have seen before, just because of different perspective and that type of thing, which is what I'm trying to I'm thinking through as you're talking about that. That's kind of what I'm saying is just that variety, changing it up a little bit. Don't don't wish for a broken arm. Don't wish for a broken arm to change things up. Yeah, do it on your own. Pick up your fork if you're right-handed with your left hand and just see what it's like. You'd be shaking. You'd be like trying to feed yourself, and you'd be like dribbling all down in front of your face. That's how I was there for the longest time. It was a really strange experience. That's for sure.
Yeah, and related to that too, I've actually listened to like some podcasts and everything, and they say that's really good for your brain to use your other hand and, like you said, take a different route, because it's just you're not using the same pathways in your brain as if you would use your right hand all the time to eat the same food or whatever. So yeah, side note, it should be beneficial for your brain to kind of do something differently, and like you said, get out of your comfort zone, even if it is from left hand to right hand feeding yourself. Your brain and your body are like, what's going on? This is very, very weird.
Yes, very, very weird. And it's not that I didn't go back to my right hand as soon as I could, but yeah, it's reminding me that, yeah, maybe I should try to use my left hand a little bit more.
Yep.
I love that, man. That's cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump into the third one. The third primal need that he talks about is significance. And he says everybody needs to feel special and important in some way. People will seek significance through obtaining recognition from others or from themselves, which I thought was really cool, that you can, like you talk about, win from within or win within, or you can get it from others, which could be good or bad depending on how far you kind of take it. But yeah, the significance piece is, I think we all kind of, we fall into that category. It just depends on where it's coming from, how much we need, and how much we recognize it. So a lot of different talking points on this one, I think.
So the hardest part, yeah, you can probably see me trying to hold myself back from interrupting you there because yeah, that was like sparking off all kinds of thoughts in my mind. So the issue that I have with that one there for that one for myself is that there again, celebrating yourself. That I struggle with that probably more than anything else. I mean, I crave that from other people. I try to give that to as many people as I possibly can, but sometimes it's hard to receive it. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? Yeah. Do you have that issue at all?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in that same boat. Yeah, it's definitely harder to, kind of like recognize your wins or where you're significant to others in life sometimes. I mean, obviously we're both married and everything, so we have that, but even that sometimes, if you've been married for a long time and you've been married longer than I have, you don't always express what you're saying because you assume, oh, well, she kind of knows how I feel, or she knows if I do this, or, whatever. But, kind of goes to that book. I forget the name of the title, but the love language book, knowing the love language of your, significant other. Some people need to hear the words, some people just need to see the actions, some people may need both. But yeah, I kind of struggle with that too, with giving myself significance and realizing the areas of my life that I am significant to others, and to myself, most importantly.
And I found, speaking of marriage, as you mentioned, is I will be married 29 years coming up here. So, we've had our normal ups and downs, right? It's never a straight line. We've raised 3 kids and moves and jobs and just normal life stuff. So it's not been a perfect straight line. But at the same time, one thing I've learned is that the more that I try to give to Stacy, my wife, the significance, right? The more I try to not be selfish into what I need all the time, the more I actually get back from her. If it, so, I, that might sound simple. That might sound even maybe strange to folks. So what I've done is I've gone back and thought through, okay, when we were going through a little bit of a rough patch, why did that happen? Most of the time, if not all of the time, it was because in those moments, I was being selfish towards myself, thinking that I needed something or that I deserved something, or why is she doing this to me, or something like that. That when I've flipped that, so I've had to consciously think about that, catch myself in the moment and flip that. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect all the time, and I'm not saying I don't slip back into this, because I do. But when I've realized it and caught myself and tried to give her the significance, praise her for what she's doing, appreciate her for what she's doing for us, for the family, uh, I get that back. Does that make sense? So it's
Mhm.
like, it's that giving and taking. I used to try to take more than I would give in our relationship, especially in our early years when I was, mid to late 20s, going into my 30s. And I've had to flip that. I've had to take care of that and fix that. And I know that that's the reason why we've been able to stay together as long as we have. I've talked about this, I believe, in the past episodes, a long while back. One thing that I used to think about a lot was, and this isn't a marriage podcast, so I apologize, folks, if you're not married and if doesn't resonate. But this is the thoughts that are coming to my mind. But I used to always think, you would see folks that were married for 20, 30 years, and they would separate. And I used to always think, why would that happen? Why does that happen? And a lot of times, from there again, this is just observation and then just the study, because I was trying not to have that happen to me and my wife, because we were at a turning point. I remember right when my kids were getting ready to leave school, we were at a turning point, meaning life was about to change. Everything that we had done or known up to that point was the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, get them to this event, that event. We were just busy with life. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now it's just us. It's like we're back to us the way we were when we were kids. And we could have not known each other. You know what I mean? We could
Mhm.
have not done the work. I could have not allowed myself to give her the significance that she deserved. And then she's obviously given it back to me. And we've had to kind of get to know each other again, or even in a different way, even though we've lived together now for almost 3 decades. We had to get to know each other a little bit more. So with that significance piece, I guess that's kind of why I wanted to tie that in. It was that if you're in a relationship of any kind, it can be a friendship that you're having, it's like Greg and I with our relationship. I'm always trying to look for ways to add into his life as much as I possibly can, to give him the significance, to realize that he is great. And I struggle, and that's why I brought that up with that question at the beginning. I struggle to receive it, to be quite honest with you. I need to work on that. I need to celebrate more of the things that I'm doing. And that's just my personal development journey. That's what I'm working on actively every single day. And it's not a bragging. We've got a friend out there right now that is actually doing huge things out there, being successful, promoting and selling books and all kinds of things. And he keeps using the word that he feels like he's bragging. And I keep responding back to them. It's like, dude, you're not bragging, you're celebrating. You're celebrating the fact that you are now finally starting to see the fruits of your labor, and you are a great human, a heart of gold. You're like the man. And it's like, don't think of it as bragging, because you're not. And that's where I struggle with that too. I feel like sometimes when I'm celebrating myself, I feel like I might be bragging. And in reality, I'm speaking to myself. That's that's not true. Any
Yeah.
thoughts on that, man?
I mean, there's like so much there, but yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not easy, and nobody. I don't think anybody is perfect at at significance and kind of, especially for yourself. I mean, that's the hardest part of just being unique to ourselves is sometimes we're hard on ourselves, and like you said, like marriage isn't an up and down straight line, and neither is working on yourself or personal development or your career or anything in life. It really is very rarely is it just you start and then you excel and then you just keep excelling. There's no downturns, there's no fumbles. Yeah, so I think it's just a nonstop learning experience, and that's why we always say personal development. There's no finish line. There's many things along the way where you can talk about celebrate and everything, and you're like, all right, I think I got this one piece, and now it opens up 20 more doors of, oh wow, now I got to go through these 20 doors and figure out these things. But I get to do that, so it's and that's yeah, that's just the hard part of significance. You really have to sit down with yourself and figure out what that looks like for you, because I can't copy you and you can't copy me. It's going to be very different. Even if it's the same category, it's going to be slightly different because our lives are very different. You know what I mean? Like every person's life is different. So that's what makes it cool though. It's unique.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. So try to just celebrate the small wins. That's what I'm trying to do for myself. That's kind of how I'm trying to break through from these challenges that I have in my own mind. So it's that chatter that's going on, telling me that, hey, quit bragging or quit whatever negative thought is going on when I had those moments of celebration. I'm trying to allow myself to do that more often.
Good.
And yeah, just I think it's just going to take practice, take repetition, and yeah. So that's yeah. I just encourage folks to sit with that and today, but then also try to give it. So if you're not receiving it, make sure that you try to give it. So if you're in a relationship, or if maybe you're not in a relationship, you're trying to get into a relationship, whether it's with another man or a woman or something like that, a romantic relationship or just a friendship relationship. Look to give first, and I promise you that you'll receive that coming back to you. Once again, that might sound simple, but I did not know that growing up. That was not something that was taught to me, and I've had to learn that on my own. That's why I want to definitely express that to you today. If you're looking for something, make sure you're giving it first. So, anyways, love that, man. What's
Yeah.
number 3?
So that was number 3. We're going to jump
That was 3. My fault.
into, yep. Yeah. We're going to jump into number 4. And that kind of relates to exactly what you're talking about. Number 4 is connection/love. And he talks about, humans need to feel connected with somebody or something, whether it's a person, an idea, a value, a habit, or an identity, which we've talked about on the podcast quite a bit. So, like you're talking about, it could be, another person, friendship, romantic, but it could be your career, or it could be giving back to a charity, or even, talking about an identity. It could be the fact that, you wake up and you work out every morning, and that's your identity of, you're healthy and you're trying to, increase your health. That's a form of connection with, your body, your health, your mind, whatever that looks like. So yeah, that's the 4th human need that he mentions, connection/love. What are your thoughts on that one, Randy?
So many things again. So one thing I'm working on, and this goes into that whole celebration even of myself, is I'm working towards liking and loving even myself. I struggle with, even because I've used to say this a lot in the past to my wife. We'd be just having a regular conversation about my challenges or whatever I'm working on in that moment, and I would catch myself, or I right now I'm catching myself thinking that I would say out loud that I just don't like myself. I don't like how I am. I don't like whatever the situation was, right? Whether I didn't handle the situation correctly or I wish I would have done it differently. It's like, man, I just don't like myself. And I'm actively every day trying to work on even loving myself more all the time. My flaws, my ups, my downs, even with the podcast, right? I listen to myself on the podcast and it's like, what in the world am I thinking? What am I saying? Why am I doing that? You know what I mean? And it's like, I just need to love that, right? I stumble through my words. Sometimes I come out and it sounds a little mumbled or fumbled or whatever. And it's like, just giving myself grace to
Yep.
understand that I'm doing the best that I possibly can, that I love myself. And so so I talk about my I am statements a lot. And that's one of my I am statements right now, is that I am love, or I love myself. And I just keep saying that to myself over and over and over. Now, loving other people, like you said, which is, I think that's probably more of what he was talking about in the context of what
Mhm.
he was sharing. I'm doing that more and more as well. I'm trying to give, and that's why I guess maybe I jumped ahead. I'm trying to give that love to as many people as I possibly can, whether it's showing up here on the podcast or my friend here with Greg or my other friends, or definitely with my family, with my grandson Rowan and then my kids and my wife. I'm trying to express and give as much love as I possibly can, because once again, once I've learned as I give it, then I'm going to receive it more all the time. It just, you know what I mean? It's an amazing thing. Once again, I didn't realize that growing up, and it's taken me a lot of years to realize that, which then makes me want to double down and do it more. And so that's where I'm trying to flip it, even with myself. I'm trying to get better with doing that for myself. So the more love I give myself, the more confidence I have, the more ability I have then to show up, to do hopefully greater things for myself, for my family, for my friends. Yeah, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know we spoke about that on a previous podcast, the self-love and that kind of thing. So, but you're right. Like I'm kind of the same way as far as, I didn't grow up with any personal development for the most part. I was like looking back pretty oblivious to it. I didn't even know, who Jim Rohn was until I was 39 years old. I mean, I can't even imagine you know, what my mind would have been like had I caught him in my high school years or even college years.
I say that to my kids all the time. It's like, guys, you have no idea. They're in their 20s. I was like, you have no idea. Knowing what you know now, if I
Yeah.
would have known then what I know now, goodness. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I tell my kids that all the time. They're so fortunate to at least have the information. Now, what they do with it, that's up to them.
Right.
But at least they have the information that is a contrast to maybe what they've been shown, even what their mom and I have taught them up to this point, because we didn't know either for the longest time. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that. Imagine what life would be like today had we known these things in early on in our life, which is why it's so much fun to share it with other folks.
Yeah, and that's the cool part now, we're implementing it now. And I know you picked it up earlier than I did in life and everything, but you know,
See that you say that, I not much,
oh no.
meaning age wise, not much, because I didn't really realize or notice it until I was in my late 30s, getting into 40s,
Hmm.
which is the same thing with you. I'm just a little bit older than you are today, so it might seem like it. I've probably done it longer because of that, or I've been
Right.
involved in it because of longer. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, so the connection love one, I think, yeah, it's a really important one, obviously. And like you said, depending on what relationship you want to kind of target that to, it'll, change a little bit. But the one thing that you said that's probably not going to change is, yeah, give it and then you'll receive it, maybe fourfold, tenfold, whatever that looks like back. But you can never go wrong with, giving it and being generous and having that grace for the other person, because yeah, we don't know what other people are going through. And, even if you're in personal development for 20 years, you still have a bad day where you might fly off the handle and something goes wrong and, whatever. So, it's just, yeah, give that person that grace that you would want to receive when you're not having the best day in the world either.
One thing I like to share with folks to kind of just piggyback off this thought here today, and it's kind of a financial thing as well, which is why I love it. But when you're out, folks, and you're getting service from folks, whether it's dinner or whatever, and you have the ability to tip people, give them some money. You're going to help them. Think of them, okay? Forget about you, forget about your bank account, forget about it. Money is meant to circulate. It's called currency. Currency because it needs to circulate. Now, think of it as you're giving to these people. Now, if it's absolutely awful service, I'm not saying give them like a gazillion dollars tip. Tip them the minimum or something. But I've heard so many times where folks will not tip at all. So my kids are in that type of an industry, so they get tipped out or whatever for the service that they provide. And they tell me a lot of times that they just either won't get tipped at all or very little. And it's like, that's unfortunate, because those people don't realize what I have had to realize even for myself, is that the more I give, the more I'm going to receive. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing with our money, as far as in our energy, in our relationships, all of it. So make sure you're doing that as well. When you have the opportunity to give to somebody, do it openly. Now, I'm not saying give them every single dollar you've got in your bank account. That's not what I'm saying, but give them some extra. Just think that what they're going to be able to do with that for their family, for themselves. and just understand that that's part of the giving and the receiving process.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to tie that in there as well, because once again, I've had to learn that. And as I've gotten better at that, it's fun to have good service and give them generously. And then you just walk away just feeling good, just knowing that they're going to enjoy that. They're going to be surprised when they flip over that receipt and see that amount on their check, because I'm sure they had it in their mind, well, this was a $20 bill, so I'm only going to get, a $2 tip. And you give them some extra. Say you give them $20. Makes it a $40 bill.
Mm-hmm.
So what? So what? You know what I mean? Because you're going to get it back. That's been my experience. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, man. Didn't mean to. I kind of took over this whole with the whole giving, the love, and all that good stuff. Yeah, because I'm so passionate about those subjects.
Yeah, no, that was great. Let's jump into the last two. So these are on the spiritual needs side, and so this is number 5. This one's growth. So he wrote in his workbook here, everything is either growing or dying. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how many people acknowledge you, or what you have achieved. Unless you feel like you're growing, you'll be unhappy and unfulfilled. So I love this part. This is, this doesn't, I think this might be, I don't know, maybe like a primal need, but he has it under a spiritual need. But I think it's just as important, because no matter how much you're growing, you could grow from 0 to 1. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exponential, financial growth or spiritual growth. Doesn't matter. It goes along with, progressing every day, and having that growth is, that's something that I've realized in the last couple, probably weeks, maybe a month or so, is I just want to feel accomplished at the end of the day. And that's where the growth comes in. And sometimes it could be, a really big growth day, or other times it could just be, like I said, you're just kind of doing your routine and nothing really special happened, but you just check all those boxes off, and, you're one day closer and everything compounds. And so that's my experience with growth. But that's one thing that I've really been focusing on, is growth and accomplishment at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on that one?
So just don't get caught. And then we just actually launched an episode about the comparison trap. Just don't get caught into thinking that you have to achieve what somebody else is achieving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just make sure it fits into what you want to do, who you're trying to become, right? So we talked about plateaus sometimes. So when I hear people talk about growth, this is just my own thoughts and my own beliefs, right? So this might be accurate, this might not. So take this for what it is. But the grind, right? You're just grinding your face off. You're just pushing. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't times to do that. There might be, but allowing yourself some grace, as far as understanding that there's ebbs and flows to this growth. It's not a straight line. We talked about relationships here today, even no understanding that it's not a straight line, but yeah, continuous achievement towards a goal, towards an outcome, understanding that it needs to be bigger than yourself. In my opinion, it can be something that you're doing for yourself, but to me, it needs to be bigger than yourself. That's been my experience, to allow me then to keep going when the growing gets tough, when you don't feel like doing it anymore, when I'm doing it for somebody, or when I feel like I'm doing it for somebody else. That allows me to keep pushing forward into that growth, even though it might be, small in that moment, but it's ever increasing. Yeah. So I love that.
I think that's where accountability comes in too, because you feel like you're doing it not for the other person, but because the other person is counting on you or watching you, maybe judging you if you don't do it. But, that's where accountability partners come in. And I think that's why it's so successful in a lot of things, with just any habits or workout buddies, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to show up at the gym and, Randy's not there at 6 a.m. and I am, it's like, well, what the heck, man? Like, you left me hanging. You don't want to do that. And I don't want to feel that way. So it's, that's what I mean. That's where the growth kind of comes in, and you're going to grow by, committing to that 6 a.m. workout. And then also your muscles are going to grow, our friendships, like everything is going to just take off from there. But, so yeah, growth, I always kind of tie that in with accomplishment these days. And at the end of the day, I kind of review of like all the little things that I accomplished. And and it doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world, but you know what? I did 90% of the things that I wanted to do today. Great. If in my book, if that's a good day, then that's a great day.
Celebrate those wins. We've already talked about that.
Yep.
100%. That's awesome, man. You said there's one last one?
Yep. Number 6 under the spiritual needs is contribution. So he says, we all have a deep need to go beyond ourselves and to live a life that serves the greater good. So I think this one, so contribution is, he says, the ultimate secret to the joy that so many people wish to have in their lives. So kind of like you were saying, you love to give to people a little bit more than maybe yourself. And that's just, you know, you feel like you're contributing, you're giving to somebody else, you're making their day better. You may be putting a thought in their head, that they never had before. I like to do the same thing. I was actually talking to my sister because she's a mom now and everything. And I was just asked her, how does that make her look back at our childhood of all the stuff that our mom did? And I kind of kept on digging with some questions and everything. And it was just a cool conversation because she's like, yeah, I don't know how she did it all. There's 3 of them. Like she's like, my sister has 1 kid. My mom had 3. And she's just like, yeah, it gave her a deeper appreciation now that she's a mom. And that was just, kind of going back to like the contribution piece is, as you can relate, being a father of 3, just that whole dynamic. So it was, I don't know, just a cool conversation that I had with my sister, but also along the lines of contribution and recognizing, what people are doing that you didn't recognize 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think the theme for this whole episode, man, has been wrapped up in the contribution piece. I keep going back and forth
Mm-hmm.
talking about giving, 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 giving. When all else fails, give something, and it doesn't have to be anything significant. It could be give someone a smile, give someone some gratitude, share some thanks. One thing I've tried to do here lately, even myself, is just grab your phone and just send somebody, a friend of yours, a text. Check in with them, see how they're doing, tell them you appreciate them. Before we hit record today, I was reaching out to my daughter and just telling her how much I was proud of her. She made a big decision for herself, an adult decision that I was super proud of her for, because a lot of folks would have stayed stagnant with what they were doing and not moving forward. And I was encouraging her over the last few months to take this leap, and she did it. And I'm super proud of her. But the point is that I want to go with that is I took a second to just express that to her, give her that, and give that to other people. So that contribution piece is a big part of who I'm trying to become. Even showing up here on the Rich Mind podcast, I'm trying to give as much value through the stories that I've learned, through the things that I've learned with bringing Greg on and him sharing his stories as well. Just trying to add as much value into your life as we possibly can, which is what, to me, that's what all this contribution is all about. Because the more you give, the more you're going to receive. And I know that for a fact based on the experiences that I've had, which makes it so much exciting. It makes it so exciting to jump on here, even for the podcast, hit record, the lights are shining, it's time to go. And it's like, yeah, this is fun. This is fun. So it's like just that give and take. Yeah, it's a blast. I appreciate you sharing that about your sister as well, because you're right. Yeah, the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs about the family, right? You look back, it's like, wow, how did my wife raise my kids? I was working all the time back in the day. And so I look back on it now. It's like, how in the world did she do that? 3 kids, 2 years apart, basically what they were. And yeah, it's amazing now that I'm looking after my grandson, Rowan. He's 18 months old now. And yeah, I think through, okay, if I add another one and another one, it's like, what would life be? I can't only imagine
Yep.
how difficult and challenging that would be. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the one thing that I noticed, and then we kind of wrap it up here, but for you, looking at you and these 6 in front of me, contribution for you, and tell me if I'm wrong, is a big part of your significance. Like you contributing to the podcast, to others, to your family, texting your daughter about her, adult decision, that gives you a lot of significance. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just taking a shot in the dark here, but I'm connecting those 2 with you real quick here.
So you're correct. And so the issue that I have, and I go back and I talked about it earlier today, was that sometimes when you do give, you don't always receive the way you think you should. If that does that make any sense? And so then I set myself up for disappointment because I don't necessarily get back the way
What do you think you should get back?
yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to detach from the outcome, and I'm just giving openly is what I'm working towards doing now. I'm
Right.
not saying I'm perfect at that at all, because I still set myself up for that disappointment a lot. But yes, what I've learned is that when I give openly, without expectation, I I'm generally more happy with my day to day, with my life. I just put it out there and I just kind of see what happens. Yeah, so I would say that yes, you've definitely tapped into the who I'm trying to become, even though I'm actively trying to even get better at it every day.
Right. And I think that's, I don't think we planned that, but I think that's the next topic that we're going to talk about on the podcast is expectations. I'll kind of let you close it out here, but we didn't even do that on purpose. So that was good timing right there.
It's almost like we're doing this like we're sharing our notes and all that
Yeah.
kind of
Like we're
stuff. And that's the beauty
professionals,
of,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's almost like we've had several conversations like this before. And that's why it's so much fun. But yes, that exactly leads into what we want to discuss on the next episode. And you're right, we didn't exactly plan that there at the end. I always like to leave the teaser for the following episode. That way you have kind of an idea of what to expect on the next episode. And that's what we're going to dive into. Expectations. One thing I'm actively working on every day, because this is something that I've struggled with a lot, is that I will have very high expectations of others. And then when they don't follow through for whatever reason, I will then shut down on myself. I will turn that negativity onto myself, where that goes back into the conversation we were having earlier about loving myself. I've started to, when I was younger, I used to think that their response or their lack of was because of me.
Right.
And it took me so long, and I'm still working on it today. It's taken me so long to work through that. And that's the conversation we want to have in the next episode. Greg and I were actually chatting about that before we hit live on this episode, and we're like, yeah, let's have a conversation about that one, because we could talk for days on that stuff. At least I can, and I'm sure Greg can as well. So, folks, really appreciate your time and attention today. This has always been a fun conversation. Greg brought this one to me, wrapping up the UPW event with Tony Robbins. Hopefully, it's been valuable to you as well. Think through some of the things we've talked about here today for yourself in your own life. Focus on that contribution, focusing on the love, the different topics that he shared today, and think about them each in your own life and see if you can't tweak some things. It's not an all or nothing type of thing. It's something you're going to try a little bit differently today. Maybe try eating with your left hand instead of your right. Maybe turn left instead of right if you're leaving your house. Basic little things that will be so impactful for you moving forward. And that's what we want to leave with you here today on this episode. So we appreciate your time and attention. Catch us on the next episode when we're going to dive into expectations and how they really can sabotage us. At least they have for me, and maybe they are for you as well. And we'll have a discussion about that on the next episode, and hopefully help you work through some of the things that you're having and challenges, the same things that I'm dealing with. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Be a fun conversation. So go out there, focus on being great, and we'll be back on the next episode again very soon. Until then, bye now.